goes out in search for a broken. No matter how deep we're buried in.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm sure it's been forever since I posted. I'm sorry, life. But thanks for tuning in. So today I was watching a video from a friend of mine, Tyler. She was talking about her testimony about how God transformed her life. And I was impacted by it. I felt it was so powerful. And I think a lot of times we don't put enough credit behind sharing our testimony. I think when we go through something, it's not for us, but it's for other people. Sure, we learn something from it, but we're able to encourage and uplift other people who might be going through similar things, or who might be even having the exact same situation, who might not have anyone to reach out to, anyone who could relate. So I think it's very powerful for us to share what we're going through, our experiences, what we think, how we feel, how we dealt with it, and how God made it come together in the end. So basically, I recorded this already. I had a difficulty remembering like the order of things, but I got my notebook. Ooh, my pen. I got my notebook. I wrote things down so I can remember it in the right order. I'm trying to look at the camera, but I kind of want to look at myself because I don't know. It's just easier to look at the screen with my face on it. So bear with me. Being on camera is not my thing. I'm working on it. I'm a little bit uncomfortable, but I'll get there. I'll get through it. Once I get the hang of it, I guess, because I do plan to post more. I do feel like there is something that I'm supposed to say, that I want to say, that I can share. But that's neither here nor there. So today's story is about how I give God credit for every time I lost my job. Yes, every time, meaning more than one time. I think that's probably what caused me initially to have some hesitation with sharing this. Some people do know bits and pieces of, like, if you know me, you know bits and pieces of what I've been through or where I've been or what has happened. But I kind of was hesitant to share it because there's a bit of embarrassment or insecurity behind the fact that I lost my job more than one time. Sometimes I felt undeserving of that happening, of those circumstances, but it happened. And every single time, if I look at where I am now in retrospect and see what happened the very first time, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, and God had to be stacking those dominoes up, because there was no way I could have pictured me here right now today in this position, this mindset, this emotional state. If I had not gone through those series of events, I could not have been here now. So that's how I give God credit for every single time that I was fired. So the first one, what happened was I was working at the bank. I'm going to say the bank name. I don't think it really matters because I have no intention on working in a bank again, because that's not for me. But I was working in Pt.1 Bank. I worked there for maybe, it was just about to touch 2 years. And I don't know if you remember starting to see a whole bunch of Pt.1 commercials on TV. They were going through a lot of transition, talking about, what were they saying? Not your average bank or something like that. They started turning the banks into coffee shops where you can do banking, things like that. So at the time I was working there part-time. I worked there through my last couple of years of college when I was doing my undergrad. And it was cool. I loved it because the schedule was never crazy. Even though I worked on a Saturday, I still got out at a decent time. The Metro North station ran right by my house. There was no problem walking wise. It was good. I enjoyed it. I had a cool employees. I loved it. That was the first place I ever worked where I loved the people that I work with. It was just fun. Every day was fun until it was not fun. But whatever, that's not the point. But yeah, so I was there for a while, and now they started making a bunch of transitions. I was working there part-time as a teller. And so they said, okay, Rashida, at this time, you have to be on a call for all the part-time tellers. So, all right, not really thinking that much of it. I know they're making changes. Maybe they're going to change us all from part-time to full-time and ask us if you want it or not. I don't know if there was like wind of people saying that, but that, I don't know what I was assuming. I just wasn't walking into the call with any feelings of dread or doom or worry. I just was going to take the call. So I get on the call, and they basically were talking and blah, 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 and then said, well, unfortunately, once I heard that, unfortunately, I knew, okay, this was not what I was expecting. So basically, anyone who was working for the company that was part-time at the time was let go. They offered a severance package, which is cool. I mean, thank you for the money, but I cried because I'm like, I'm losing my job. I'm here in New York by myself, if you don't know. My family law lives in Georgia, and I'm in New York by myself. I need an income. I'm like, God, what am I going to do without money? I don't have a job. I just graduated. I'm about to graduate college. I think I graduated while I was there. I believe so, because the last day I had was in September, and I graduated, I think, that June. So I'm about to not have a job, and I'm not in school. Like, what am I doing with myself? I need money. How can I provide for me? That was the problem. I wasn't thinking about the fact that God is going to supply all my needs, that no matter what, He would make sure that I ate, that I had some place to sleep, that, you know, I had clothes on my back, shoes on, all of that. I should have known that God was going to provide for me, but at the time, even though I did know God, my relationship with Him was not where it needed to be. A lot of trust was in myself. That's what caused me to feel insecure. That's what caused me to feel worry. That's why losing my job at that time felt devastating, because I carried the weight of that myself. Being up here, being by myself definitely was a factor, because I didn't have that community around me that I could fall back on when I needed support. Sure, I had them over the phone. Sure, I knew they were never going to let me starve, you know, financial wise. They would help me out where and when they can. But not having the ability to provide for myself was not something that I enjoyed. I don't like to ask nobody for nothing. That's a pride thing that I probably do need to work on. But I would much rather be able to comfortably do for myself than have to be like, hey, sorry to call you again, but I need more money. You know, I need something for this. Or I just don't like that feeling, because it makes me feel like a burden, or whatever the case was. I just didn't like it. So I cried. I remember feeling so devastated, but at least they gave me like maybe 2 months to prepare, to know, oh yeah, now I remember another part that I forgot, but I don't need to write it because it's right here. So they gave me like 2 months to prepare. So while I was preparing, I knew that the next move for me was going to be some sort of graduate program. That's what I thought at the time. I wanted to do the PA program. So I was thinking, okay, well, I need to get a job that will give me medical experience or patient care experience, because a lot of these schools, they won't even look at your application unless you have like 100, 250. Some of them require 3,000 hours of patient care experience. So I needed a job that was going to give me that, because while I was working undergrad, while I was in undergrad, I was working. I didn't have the opportunity or the time to volunteer to get those hours while I was in school. So now I definitely couldn't afford to go someplace and volunteer and not be paid for it. I needed something that was going to give me income, but also give me the experience that I needed. So within those 2 months while I was looking, maybe 3, don't know when they told me. I just knew that by September, I would no longer be coming to work, and then I would get a severance check. God is so good. I'm just thinking in advance right now. So I was looking, and I was applying to all sorts of places, and I got a call back from a medical office that was like maybe 5 minutes walking distance from my house. I went and I did the interview. They offered me the position, but here was the thing. It was more of an administrative position. I wasn't going to be working with patients, though I would be in a medical office. It was more things on the computer, or answering the phone, or filing papers. And that sounded cool and interesting, and it was a job that I knew I wasn't going to have one in a while, so this was an opportunity that I could have taken, but I knew that it wasn't what I needed. What I needed was patient care experience. What I needed was to be physically working with patients hands-on. I needed to get that experience for myself, not just from watching a doctor do it from outside of the receptionist desk. So I was there, and I was thinking about it, and I debated it. I called my dad. I was talking to my sister, my mom, just trying to figure out, okay, well, should I take this job? What should I do? Because it's a job, it's money. But like I said, it wasn't going to check off the boxes of what I needed at the time. So I decided to decline it. Didn't know where the next job application was going to come from, the next job offer, the next interview. But okay, cool. I'm still going to work though. At the time, I'm still working at the bank, just waiting for my final day. So I'm working, and one day I remember seeing this lady come in the bank. She came in the bank, and we were kind of busy. Our branch tended to get busy a lot of times. But so she's in the line, and there's probably like 3 other tellers with me working at the time. And I'm saying to myself, I need her to come to my window, because I see on her jacket, she works for an unnamed hospital. She works for Grace Sloan Memorial. If you know, you know. Grey's Anatomy. That's my thing. So she works for Grace Sloan Memorial. And so I'm like, I need her to come to my desk. I need to know what she does. I need to know, how can I get to where she is? I need to know what window can I crawl through to get to where I needed to be. So somehow, God is so good, she ended up at my window. Out of the 3 other people that I don't know if I started moving slower with my transactions, trying to make sure she came to me, but somehow she ended up at my window. So she came to my window, and I was just trying to, doing what she needed me to do, being very pleasant, got my bright smile on, and just trying to figure out, so what do you do? I was like, yeah, this is what I graduated from school for this, and I would love to volunteer. Me saying volunteer, knowing I want to check, okay? But I was like, I'd like to volunteer any kind of, any open positions or whatever. This is the field that I want to be in, the area that I want to be in is the hospital, is the medical field. Do you know anybody, or how do I apply? So she says, hey, here's my card, here's my email. Send me your resume and a cover letter or whatever. All right, cool. By the end of the day, she had my resume. I wasn't playing. Okay? By the end of the day, she had my resume. And then within 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks, like maybe 2 days, 3 days, by the end of the week, I had an interview. So I was like, oh God, I'm hype. I'm about to go on this interview. And it was cool. I went in. I remember the interview. I don't know what I was wearing or whatever, but I remember the feeling I had in the day. A little bit unsure of myself because I've never worked in a hospital before. I have no medical experience for this role as a nursing technician. I don't know what it's about. I don't know how to interact with patients. I don't know the terminology. I don't know the documenting systems. I don't know nothing. So I go into the job, no experience. I was like, all right, let me see. But the lady must have put in a word for me because I got the job. Okay? So I got the job, and they didn't require you to have a CNA license. They didn't require any previous experience. They trained you for everything you needed to know. I was like, God, you are so good. But the thing about it is, though, she wanted me to start in like August. I was supposed to finish at the bank in like September. But if you left before September, you didn't get the severance. I needed that severance. That severance was going to be my way to buy my first car. I was going to take that severance with some of what I had saved, vehicle. So I was trying to find a way. I went to my manager and I said, hey, you guys, I didn't put myself in this position. If it wasn't for you guys, I would not have to have looked for a job. But I was looking. I've been looking like a responsible person should. And I got an offer. However, they need me to start in August, and I'm supposed to leave in September. So I was wondering, can I use my sick time to be able to do orientation? And I should be able to balance, from working here and working there until for that 2 week period. He told me no. No. What you mean no? What you mean no? So you're basically telling me either I take this new job and I lose the severance, or I stay here and I get the severance but I don't have the new job. That wasn't an option for me. I'm definitely going to take the job. The option is, how do I find a way to orchestrate it so that I can keep both jobs for the time, so that I'll be able to get that extra severance, to get my car or whatever. So I had to go above him. There's always a way. There's always a way. So I went above him and I spoke to, I think, his manager, the district manager or whatever, and explained to them the situation. Once again, saying, I did not put myself in this position. I'm not saying, oh, I want to leave. I'm randomly quitting the job. I want to leave and get another job. But in the meantime, I need y'all to, give me some extra time off so I can do orientation and training and, let me work some modified hours so that I can make those shifts also. I wasn't saying that. But whoever that person was, somehow it worked. Between maybe 2-3 emails, 2 or 3 meetings, whatever the case was, it worked. So I got to go to my orientation. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. I got to, it was good experience. I liked working there, and while I was working there, I was still working at the bank. So now I'm working from like, call it 8:30 to maybe 2 or something like that. And then going to work at the hospital from 3 to 11. I'm working all day, okay? But that's because I needed to get that car. But God was so good, because I went from having no job, about to have no job, to having 2 jobs momentarily, one of which was in the field that I wanted to be in. Isn't God good? So now the time comes, the bank fades to the black, and now I'm only working at the hospital. Working at the hospital was cool. I loved it immediately. I loved working with patients. I loved, the staff wasn't, like I said, I don't know if I mentioned it in this take of the video, but working at the bank was the first time I worked with people that I really enjoyed working with. It was always fun, always jokes. It was just nice. It was a good vibe. I just enjoyed the job. Even when it was down to, no matter who was on the shift with me, it was always a good day. Even when I was in a bad mood, I took my mornings of silence, because they knew me in the morning. Don't talk to me. Give me a little bit of time, because I didn't want to come in that early. But once I got into, I'm awake now, it was just always a good day at the bank. Even when I had my instances or whatever, they were just cool people. I really enjoyed it. I know I still have some of them on social media, keep in touch with them every now and then. But yeah, so then what was it? Oh, so yeah, working at the hospital. So it was cool. I loved everything about it. I enjoyed working with the patients. That's when I realized that for me, the medical field, I didn't think the joy would be coming from interacting with the patients. I thought the joy would come from the work itself, from the cool things that I would experience, the wounds that I would see, the trauma or whatever. Even though I wasn't on a trauma floor, I just loved everything about it. So I was working there for maybe I don't remember in total. I want to say close to about a year. And everything was cool. I was not driving yet at the time. I was preparing to buy a car. And so I was late maybe one time. I don't know, train. Was it a train? I don't know. Something happened. I was late one time. Then I got my car and I started paying for parking, and you park in the parking garage. It's one parking garage for the whole hospital. Stupid. This hospital is in a cool city, I would say, a very, what you call it, trendy city somewhere in Westchester. And they had one parking garage. No, one, two, maybe two or three parking garages, but the one that I was assigned to was the main parking garage right across from it, from the hospital. There was another one like maybe a block over, I think, and maybe another one somewhere else. I don't remember. But yes, I was working in that parking garage. The thing about it is, as much as they had parking garages, if you park in the main hospital, it's going to take you some time to get a spot, because you share with the doctors who get the main level. You share with the patients who I believe can park wherever. You share with the nurses, respiratory therapists, physical therapy, anybody who works in the hospital. Most people wanted that parking garage. So that parking garage was busy. The people who came could also park on the street, but you would have to pay for parking, like street meters and things like that. So the thing about it is, though, if you don't come on time to park, you might come on time, but it's going to take you maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes to find a parking spot. So the second time I was late, it was because I was on time, but I didn't allot enough time for the parking garage. This, I would say, is my fault. I was not, my priorities were not in the right place. I think at the time I would try to like just cut my window really short, because I wanted to do something right before work, and I wouldn't make sure, okay, let me make sure I have at least 20, 30 minutes to like get a parking, then go in the breaking room and sit until my shift. It just was not, I wasn't making the right choices at that time of my life. So now, my second time late, manager calls me in for a meeting. She says, Rashida, what's going on? You've been late. I was never late when I was commuting, and that was the majority of the time I was working there. So I was like, yeah, I'm just having a hard time with the parking garage. I get here and then it takes me a long time to get parking. So she says, just a lot more time for parking. Leave a little bit earlier, because we need you to be here on time so that you can give reports, so you can get report, so you can relieve the person who's leaving. All right, cool, I'm sorry. She gives me the paperwork to let me know, okay, this is a verbal warning or written, whatever it is, verbal warning, written, don't know, something like that she wrote on paper. And she let me know that I think within a couple of months, these would go away and my latenesses would start over again. If I got a certain amount within a certain time period, that's when there was like further disciplinary action. But at this point, I only had 2, never by like 30 minutes to an hour, but maybe like by 5, 10 minutes or maybe 15 max. But regardless, it didn't matter how late it was a lateness. So now I'm like, okay, cool, I gotta do better, I gotta not be late, try to be there on time. All right, I'm gonna try and do that. Cool. So I'm working there for a while, and now I'm late a third time. But by the time I'm late the third time, the first time has already disappeared. It's been long enough to where it should have been off my record. So I don't know how long it was after that time I was late. Nobody said anything, but I know she saw me when I came in. They just be peeping but saying nothing. So now I get a call. Oh, Rashida, we need you to come into the office before you start your shift. To the HR office. Me? For what? Okay. It felt weird in my stomach. It felt like something wasn't right, but I didn't automatically resort to, okay, this is bad. This is not going to end well. I wasn't thinking about it like that. But then I get there early. I got my uniform on. I got my badge. Okay, cool. I get to work. I'm sitting in the little HR office, like a waiting room, waiting. My manager comes in. She sits across from me. So I'm like, I'm here and you're here. So this has nothing to do with like emergency contact certification, payroll. It don't have nothing to do with nothing like that, because you're here. Why are you here? And what is it that you're here for that you couldn't tell me when I came in while I was working, while I was clocked in on my shift? Why did I have to come in before my shift for a meeting involving you and we're waiting for other people? I didn't have no disciplinary action. I ain't been in no fight. I had no patient complaints. So I'm like, I don't know. This is weird. This is weird. This is bad, but it's weird. So I get in there and I remember them telling me, oh, you were late a third time. And basically, we're not going to continue with you throughout, you didn't make it through your probationary period. I think that might have been that it was less than 9 months or something like that. I think. So I'm like, wow. At the time I was devastated. I started crying in the office and I'm like, yeah. Emotionally, I was not in a good position. I was going through a lot of like anxiousness, a lot of like depressive feelings, dealing with loneliness from being in New York on my own. So I was not in a great place emotionally. So my reaction there, I was angry and I was sad. I didn't curse nobody out or nothing like that, but I was definitely defensive. I didn't even have, at the time, because my emotions were so high in my head, I didn't even think to say, but this doesn't add up to what you told me on the paper. Basically, by what you told me on the paper, I should have more grace. There should be more room for me to still be here. There's no reason why right now you should be letting me go. You told me I had this window. I'm right here. So why are you making it seem like I'm all the way at the end of my window? I only have this many out of this many, or whatever the case was. I couldn't even think to say that at the time. I was just emotionally driven. I was upset. Can't believe this is happening or whatever. And alluded to the fact that I was dealing with like, dark emotional feelings. She's like, oh, well, we can get you somebody to talk to. You'll still have your insurance. I'm like, you think I want to hear that, sis? You just blew up what I felt was my world. The hospital wasn't my world, but I loved being there. It was so much a part of my routine. It was my income. Once again, I'm like, you're taking away my money. Things are already not really going on or not going very well in my personal life. So I'm like, yo, really? Really? Had issues. I contemplated. I was like, should I take her email and put it on some sort of spam site so they blow up her email? I just wanted to be petty because I was upset. I didn't do it, but I was upset. Went away crying. They took my badge from me immediately. Told me to go to my car, to get off the premises or whatever. I'm not working there anymore. I had no reason to be there. Okay, cool. That's crazy. That's what I'm saying to myself, yo, that's crazy. I call my parents, I'm crying. I'm like, I lost my job, blah, blah. Of course, they're saying it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. But once again, Rashida went back to her default, which is so faulty of me, was to think, what am I going to do? I'm relying on myself. God gave me this job. He set it up so that I would have this job. And I'm still not running to him to say, what are you going to do next? Why did you allow this to happen? What's your plan? What are you doing?